Welcome to Expressions of Leadership. I'm your host, Michele Kawamoto Perry. In every episode, we explore how people from educators and artists to executives and entrepreneurs lead with authenticity, rise through adversity, and share the wisdom they've gained along the way. Today's guest is Mairéad MacMullen, an Irish singer-songwriter whose remarkable career has spanned nearly 4 decades, multiple continents, and countless transformations. From her early days in Dublin to touring America and Europe alongside legendary artists, from fronting a successful band to stepping away and finding her own voice as a solo artist, Mairéad's journey is one of courage, creativity, and unwavering authenticity. Along the way, she has shared stages with some of music's biggest names, performed at iconic festivals, released acclaimed albums, and built a devoted community through her music. Mairéad, welcome to Expressions of Leadership. It's such a delight to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Michele. I'm really thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, Mairéad, let's start at the beginning. You have been singing since you were 3 years old. When you look back, what first drew you to music?
Well, it's hard to even know because honestly, my earliest memory, one of my earliest memories, I think I was around 2.5 or 3 years old, and I was singing in the middle of a huge group. All my relations, we were down in someone's house at the summertime, and there was probably about 25, 30 people there, and I was singing Waterloo. So obviously that was like 1974, they just, maybe 73, they just won, ABBA had won the Eurovision Song Contest. And I remembered this feeling of being like this little tiny person and looking around at people surrounding and laughing and smiling. And I was like, oh, I like this feeling. And that was pretty much it. That's how it all started. And I guess my mom told me that I was singing and humming really before I started talking. So I think I was just born with music in the veins.
And growing up in Dublin, how was that role of music or that excitement for music supported in your life?
You know, Ireland is just full of art and music and song. And so it really was a great place to be born if music was going to be your passion. Because there was music, I went obviously, well, not obviously, but public school in Ireland at the time were Catholic schools. And so the Catholic schools would have, it was all about religion, music, and Irish dancing and poetry. So, like at 4 years of age, we would be doing what they were called feshes, which would be competitions where you would be doing poetry or singing or dancing. And so that was my whole way through school. So, school just absolutely supported my passion for music. And then you kind of became in the school, you'd be known as, oh yeah, well, oh, Mairéad's the singer or Mairéad's, and there's certain group of kids that would just always be engaged in the arts all the time. And in the probably in later elementary, junior school, as we would call it, I joined the local folk group in the church, which was walking distance from my house. And our church was really kind of cool because it was actually attached to a seminary. So we had all these young student priests who were really gorgeous and sweet. And they loved singing in the folk group, you know? So it made going to mass really easy because then mass became all about music. And then like in the Catholic ceremonies around Christmas and Easter, it is like a full on, it's 6, 7 days of ceremonies and loads of solos. And so I have to really say that like that it was kind of idealistic looking back on that. And then, of course, my father was very devout Catholic. So he loved that his daughter was singing in the church. And, if I got to do the solo psalm or the communion song, and it was always a big deal. And actually that makes me think about my dad, and his most favorite thing was when I got to sing "O Holy Night" at the Christmas Mass. That was like a really big deal. And yeah, it was just my music was really connected to my sacred practice. So maybe that's how it got so entangled inside my soul being and my soul path.
And then what inspired you ultimately to leave Ireland and move to the United States?
So, back in the early 90s, I had gone to college and I had done business because even though I was like music focused all the way, my father was like, well, you've got the ability and the smarts. You should go to college because I'm not sure how music can pay someone's living. So I had gone to college, and a lot of graduates then either went to Europe or to the States to get life experience, work experience. And I had applied for a green card with my boyfriend at the time, and we got it. And it was kind of like, oh, I guess we should just go to America and see what happens. And that's a very, very long time ago. I'm still living in America, um, 30 plus years later, and going, how did I end up here? But yeah, so the story's unfolding. I guess that when I did arrive, I lived in St. Louis for a minute, but then it was when I got to New York, I decided that I was really going to go for my music because I was in New York City.
And I understand that you met your first bandmate while you were folding napkins in a restaurant. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. So when I got to New York, I was like, how am I going to use all this previous music experience I had to kind of find my own music path? And then I met Justin, and he was a songwriter, but not really a singer. And so folding napkins at the back booth 63, we started talking about music, and it was probably a few months of conversation. And finally, it was kind of like, well, you're a songwriter and I'm a singer, so maybe we should just get together. And so that's how I ended up being in a band called Too Cynical to Cry, which is definitely not a name I picked. My English partner came up with that, and I was just like, okay, whatever, it's fine.
And then Too Cynical to Cry achieved pretty significant success and toured with some major artists like Van Morrison and Natalie Merchant and Tracy Chapman.
Well, yes. So I had a wonderful after I left St. Louis and moved to New York, I fell in love with a friend from college who now happens to be my husband for a very long time. And he was just wanted to do anything he could to support me, and he was really into our music, Justin and I, what we were doing. And he happened to be quite involved in the music industry. So he became our manager, and he created all these incredible opportunities for us. And it was really, yeah, it was very, very exciting at that time.
And from the outside, it looked like a dream. But what was it like from the inside?
So initially it was super duper exciting, and developing the band and recording our the first thing we recorded was a tape. That's how old we are. And then we recorded an album, and then we started touring, and it was initially very exciting, but about a couple of years into it, I had started writing because I was now working with a songwriter, so that kind of inspired me to start playing my guitar and writing. Because to be honest, Michelle, I actually wrote my very first song when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And I did write songs in my very early years from about like, actually it's seven because I started playing guitar at seven. And that's so I probably wrote songs from about the age of 7 to 12 or 13. And my father was a musician, but he was not, he was in a Dixieland band, and none of his kind of contemporary musician friends were writers. They would always perform other people's songs. So when I was writing, nobody was paying any attention, going, oh, that's really good. They'd be like, oh, that's nice, that's sweet. So I sort of like never kind of that's when I then started getting into jazz and theater. And so I was like, oh, I guess I'm not a songwriter. But then when I started working with another songwriter and started singing his songs, all of a sudden, all these songs started to pour out of me, and I would, when we were not, rehearsing or touring or doing shows, I'd be at home playing my guitar, and all of these songs started to come. And when that started to happen, and I was out on the road with him and putting all my energies into our band, something started to shift in my soul, going, this is not, you're not, yes, you're supposed to be performing, but these are not the songs that you're supposed to be singing forever. And so I shut that voice down for a little while because as I told you, my now husband, but then boyfriend was like doing all these, making these great opportunities, and to build a brand in anything, but in particularly in the arts, you have to be consistent. It's like you're constantly trying to um build a deeper foundation and a front. So after we did our first album and had these great opportunities, we naturally had to do a second album. And it was when that started to come to fruition where I was like, I don't think I can put more money and soul and heart energy into another record of songs that are not coming from inside of me.
And at that stage in your life, how did you define success?
Well, at that stage, I really thought that I mean, I think I was in my mid 20s. I might have already I think I started singing with Justin around 25. And I had this thought because I was so ambitious in my earlier years, in my late teens and my early 20s. I had thought if I hadn't made it by 25, like that's it. Your chance is over. And certainly at the time and still nowadays, in pop music and contemporary music, everybody loves the ingenue. Everybody loves the 17-year-old, new person, like talent and then even like literally by 23, 24 in that industry, you are starting to get old. And if you haven't had a hit or some kind of bigger recognition, you start to like go, oh, I guess I'm not going to make it. And so it was a really weird time because I think that was on my mind. The fact that we were having success, uh, I was feeling like, okay, well, I just need to keep going with this because I'm in my mid 20s and I don't have time to mess around. It was like all of these feelings were happening, and I loved Justin. We were great friends, and thank God we still are. And so I didn't want to hurt him, and I didn't want to hurt my now husband, but obviously he got over it because we got married. But I gotta be honest, I was super tortured. And to the point where I started to feel we had been on tour in Ireland, or we were on tour in Ireland. And I remember being in the car, we were going from Dublin to Galway or something, and my stomach, I felt like I was getting an ulcer, And then I did the shows. I got back to my home in Dublin and my parents were still alive, which was so nice because that was always like a real comfort to be able to go home. And I remember feeling, wow, I am living the dream that I thought I wanted to live. And I'm really miserable and physically not, my body doesn't feel good. So like something's wrong and I'm going to have to figure what it is out. And I honestly, I took a minute to do that.
Well, we're talking with singer-songwriter Mairéad MacMullen about her incredible journey from Dublin to New York and the experiences that shaped her artistic voice. When we come back, we'll explore one of the biggest turning points in her career, leaving a successful band, finding the courage to perform her own songs, and learning what it means to fully step into her own truth. Stay with us. True transformation starts from within. The Forward Project partners with organizations to create meaningful culture shifts and develop leaders who inspire real change. If your team is ready to move forward with purpose, visit www.theforwardproject.co. Welcome back to Expressions of Leadership. I'm your host, Michele Kawamoto Perry, and today I'm speaking with acclaimed singer-songwriter Mairéad MacMullen, whose career has been defined by authenticity, artistic courage, and a willingness to follow the road less traveled. Now, Mairéad, you knew for months, as you said earlier, that you wanted to leave the band, but you didn't. And many leaders find themselves staying in situations that no longer fit because they're worried about disappointing others, just as you were worried about disappointing Justin. How did you navigate that tension?
I finally you have to have, as we say, no matter what religion you are, a come to Jesus moment, with yourself and your soul, and knowing that if you're not fully engaged in something to your highest level of passion and authenticity, then you're not serving the people that you love and that you're afraid of disappointing. So that you have to get to that place of inner strength that you know that following your own truth is actually going to serve everybody so much better ultimately. Because living a lie it doesn't help anyone.
Well, what was the turning point that finally helped you to make that decision?
I think I started discussing it with Liam, my husband, my boyfriend at the time first. And he was upset. Like he was, because he had put so much energy into our band and our brand, and I totally understood. But ultimately, obviously, he wanted me to be happy, and he was like, you got to do what you got to do. And then, to be honest, Justin was incredible. Like I think I was more broken up about it than he was. I mean, I know he was sad for sure. But again, we were lucky because we really cared about each other. And he had heard my songs. I'd been playing them for him, and he could see that I needed to do it. And so, yes, he very elegantly and gallantly, as a good English gentleman can be, just said, go do it. And he said, it's actually makes me kind of emotional because I remember him saying, I'll be your biggest supporter, and he still has been all these years later, which is really lovely.
And then you spoke about having a massive emotional reaction before performing your own songs for the first time. What was it that made it so scary?
Uh, I've thought on this a little bit, and now that I'm a mom, and I've given birth a couple of times, I truly feel like I was in the process of giving birth to my true and complete authentic self. And, you don't have to give birth to a child to know any big new moment in your life when you first fall in love with someone and you realize that if I go into this, this is going to be out of my control to some degree. I am going to expand into a part of myself that I want to know about, but I don't know where it's going to lead. And I think that, yeah, and you can ask my family, I am a kind of intense emotional person. It's the way I'm wired. Other people could be cool as, a cucumber about these things, but as one of my very best friends says, I didn't understand how deeply you feel about everything. And I was like, I know. It's because, can you imagine being in this body? But that's where the music comes from, you know? And so, but again, as fate or the universe or divine intervention would have it, my mom happened to be in town. My Liam was away traveling, and my mother happened to be in town the night before the very first official open mic for Mairéad that I did, and she was just it was like the universe had she of course like any other mother would be like, you're amazing, why are you so worried, you'll be great. And so she was there to calm me down, and then she was there to after I performed that next day. Oh my God, the level of elation, it was like so insane. And it was like, oh my God, okay, I'm doing it. And she was there to celebrate with me for that. So that's a beautiful, special memory. And that's kind of like giving birth. You think you're gonna die, and then the baby's born, you're like, oh my God, I'm still alive. And now I have to take care of this thing. Holy crap.
Well, one quote that really stood out to me was that you were terrified of getting bigger in your soul. What did that mean for you?
Well, like I think that we're all, and maybe it was the society that I grew up in. At the time, Ireland was still very conservative, and it was all about rules of, this is how you have a good life. You go to school and then maybe get a job and then maybe get married, and then you have to do all the things to, and this felt like this was gonna just blow all of that out of the water. Like all that sort of planned, this is how to live a good life kind of scenario. And I think I was probably a little afraid of that because, and it's been a very interesting, journey since, because there's just so much unknown when you're flying by the sole of your pants.
Well, why do you think people are often more afraid of stepping into their potential than they are of failure?
Well, I don't know if they're more afraid of success than failure, but I think they're afraid to go for the success that they can feel in the deepest part of their being, because they're afraid to go for that because they're afraid they won't be successful. So they'd rather just stay in the smaller, okay, I can handle this. If I reach this height, this is good enough, And so it's that thing of being afraid to fail is stopping you succeeding.
Well, what was it that pushed you to say, I'm going to do this anyway?
Because I had no choice. Like I had to, well, I'd broken up the band, so I had to do something. And pretty much Liam fired me as a client. He's like, okay, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna do it on your own. Like, and of course he supported me amazingly since, but he's never officially been my manager again. He's kind of coming back on board, so we'll see. I don't want to, I don't want to jinx anything, but in a way, I totally set that up for myself because I wanted to do it on my own. I wanted to prove to myself that I had all the package to forge ahead on my own little path, or big path or whatever. And what was wonderful about doing that and like staying in relationship with Liam was we really both started to we were living together, but we were living quite independent lives. But lives that crossed over because we both had the same loves. But it was actually really important for him to fire me as a client because if he had kept me on, then success. He might have said, "Oh, well, you're successful because of me," or I might have doubted myself. Oh, am I only successful because it's like it's that thing that you just want to own it in all its shape, no matter how it looks.
Well, you own it well, and I have to say, I find your courage quite inspirational. With that, let's take a brief pause. And when we return, we'll talk about major life transitions, difficult choices, caregiving, loss, and the lessons leadership can teach us during life's most challenging seasons. Don't go anywhere. Are you looking to connect with an audience passionate about leadership, growth, and success? Become a sponsor of Expressions of Leadership and align your brand with inspiring conversations that make an impact. Contact us at letstalk@expressionsofleadership.com to explore sponsorship opportunities. This is Expressions of Leadership. I'm Michele Kawamoto Perry, and today we're speaking with singer-songwriter Mairéad MacMullen, whose story reminds us that leadership often emerges during those moments we never planned for. Now, Mairéad, after 9/11, your perspective on New York changed, and eventually you moved to Los Angeles. How did that experience reshape your priorities?
Such a great question. That was another very pivotal transitional time in my life, in our lives. I mean, we didn't leave New York till was January 1st, 2005. But after 9/11, we both Liam and I, we knew that we were ready to go somewhere. And we were also planning to get married, and then we knew we would like to have kids. So we knew we needed a bigger apartment, or somewhere to live, as so many New Yorkers do. And I started to feel a little unsafe in New York. And I also started to feel like the whole idea, I never had any aspiration to live in California, ever. I mean, I knew some nice people from California, like yourself, who loved California, but I just, the whole thing of earthquakes and fires, didn't really think about that as much then. I do now, but I was just like, why would you live there? And then 9/11 happened. And then I was like, oh, okay, crazy happens everywhere. And that sort of gave me courage to open up. And Liam, we opened up to, okay, where are we going to go? And all of a sudden, I was making a record in LA, with an incredible producer who is my still one of my right hands musically and is in my band. And so I was, again, I guess the universe had decided ready to meet another like music partner. And I got invited out to his beautiful studio that sadly is no longer there, a place called Egg Chair Music, right in the heart of Hollywood, with amazing musicians. And so I was starting to establish a little bit of a music connection with LA. And Liam happened to be doing a lot of jobs with the company he was working with out in LA. And then all of a sudden they were like, would you be interested? We want to expand our business in that market. Would you guys be willing to move? And I was like, are they going to pay for our furniture to move? Our really bad off the street New York City furniture? And he was like, yes, they are. I was like, what the heck? Let's go. And so we did it. And knowing that very worst case scenario, we could go back east, we could do something else. And then LA has been our home now for 21 years.
And around that time, when you first got to LA, you also turned down a major opportunity connected to a television music competition. What led you to choose a different path?
Once again, self-torture, I think, and good Catholic flagellation. No, I know it's crazy. I again wondered, okay, am I just self-sabotaging? Is that what my deal is? But again, it was one of those things. It was an amazing opportunity that came really quickly, and it just did not align with my soul. It was to be a lead singer for. It was like right before The Voice. It precursed the show The Voice, and it was the original sort of reality show in that genre. And I was just like, I can't pretend that this is what I really want to do. And like But a lot of things out in LA and Hollywood, part of the deal is like if you're coming for your shot, you got to go, you got to take whatever shot is sent your way. And egotistically, probably my ego was kind of like, you need to do this. And my heart and soul were going, no, you don't, no, you don't. And I was like, what the? And so I did a little prayer meditation on it. And I'm going to be honest here. And I, at the time, used to sometimes do a little read, these kind of, prophecy cards, you pull a card or whatever. And so I pulled a card for both scenarios. And the taking of it would have actually led me to success and it probably would have helped my career in a certain fashion. But the other card was like the Empress card. And as soon as, oh, I get chills even talking about it. And the full sort of reading was that it was going to be a long and winding road to that place. But that's where I want it to be. That's what I want to be in my life. I want to be whole and completely aligned in my heart, soul, and mind. And so I went, okay, I guess I'm turning it down. And then I cried for about 6 months and said lots of rosaries as I left the Brentwood Country Club. Maybe not 6 months, maybe 2.5 or 3 months, because 6 months later I was pregnant. So there we go.
And then you entered a decade that included motherhood and caregiving, also some loss and significant family changes.
Yeah.
What did that season of life teach you?
Ooh, it taught me resilience, humility, patience, how to still function while your heart is smashed into pieces more than one time over. It was a really rough decade. I lost my mom had a massive stroke and then my father died very suddenly a year and a half later from a massive heart attack. And I lost one of my best friends to cancer, and I had several miscarriages between my two sons. And I would say they were the growing, the big girl years. It's like, okay, you're in the thick of life now. And yeah, I'm one of six kids, which I forgot to mention, which also has probably made me very much who I am. But we are a good bunch, and between all of us, but particularly my youngest sister, sacrificed a huge amount to take care of our mom, and especially after our father died. So I just think it also taught me about family and that word sacrifice, that there are times in life that it's just not about you anymore. And you have to step back and put on your big girl panties, as I say, and just get to work serving.
Well, what role did resilience play during those years?
Well, I wasn't really able to perform much at all. But I did still have my guitar and I had my songs, and I tried to use whatever moments, small as they would be, of quiet, to I would kind of stay a little teeny toe, like your little baby toe. I kept my music there, and the resilience part is that I think you realize, and now certainly in these later chapters, as I'm approaching well, I'm not that old, but I'm not that young, you start to realize that you just have to keep going, and that life, the wheel will turn. That's the biggest thing. The wheel is always in motion. And sometimes the wheel is up, and sometimes the wheel is down. And sometimes the wheel can get stuck in the mud for longer than you want it. But you just have to keep that faith and strength that it is going to come back up, and you got to hang in there till then.
Well, when life doesn't unfold according to plan, what leadership lessons can we learn from that?
That's such a great question because that really is the core of life. What is it, the old adage, we make plans and God laughs. Like and I think in certain periods of your life you can feel really in the flow and that you are in somewhat control and then something can happen. And I think the leadership foundation in that is to stay as calm within your own self as you can as you're handling these storms coming across the bow. And also be mindful of other people who may not have that level of strength, who are in your periphery. How can you help them not panic, and I say that with such humility because a lot of times you are panicking, but I think it's an amazing opportunity to find that higher self that we're all connected to. Personally, this is how I get through it. I have a direct now line to this higher being that I believe only wants to love and protect us, and you connect your broken child to that entity that you can connect to on the other side, and you just know you're going to be okay.
Well, we've been discussing some of the most challenging chapters of Mairéad's life and the wisdom that emerged from them. When we return, we'll explore how she reinvented her creative life, built a unique musical community through the Muse Garden concerts, and what success means to her today. Stay with us. Leadership isn't just about strategy, it's about people. The Forward Project helps organizations cultivate strong, adaptable leaders who create thriving workplace cultures. If you're ready to invest in your leadership team, visit www.theforwardproject.co to learn how. Welcome back to Expressions of Leadership. I'm Michele Kawamoto Perry, joined by singer-songwriter Mairéad MacMullen, whose journey continues to evolve in inspiring ways. Mairéad, after stepping away from touring and pursuing music as a full-time career for many years, what gave you the courage to return to it?
So part of it is that if I go a long time without doing a show, I start to get a little crazy. And so, my husband initially would be like, baby, you got to do a show, because I don't go to therapy, you see. I write songs, and that's one part, but then I have to sing them in front of lots of people to really make me feel okay. It's an affliction to a degree, but I so I would go through phases for months. I wouldn't perform for months, but then it would be like, okay, I have to do a show. So once we had a lovely little house. Our first house was in Woodland Hills, very sweet neighborhood in LA, and but little 1,300 square feet, small but cute, but it had a lovely deck. And so I think at one point I did a show on the deck in the back garden because I was like, I gotta sing. And I probably invited all the neighbors, who knew, because actually back then I was doing mommy and me classes for all the kids, babies and toddlers in the neighborhood. So everybody knew that I was a musician. And so I was like, okay, now you need to come and see me do my grown-up stuff. And so I would started to do that. And then we moved to the house that we're in now, that we've been here for 15 plus years, an amazing property in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains. And part of how we ended up here in this big, beautiful house is because my husband's, but there's like an oversized pergola in the back garden. And he was like, honey, it's your stage. I was like, okay, whatever. But he is very true to his word, and it did become my stage. And so we started to create the Muse Garden, which was where I would perform once or twice a year to get my yayas out and to be able to perform. I was continually writing. So it was like a great opportunity to try out the new songs and get my band together and also It became we call it the mini Hollywood Bowl, which is pretty cool. And it's so we're on about an acre here, and it's about a quarter acre that sits in front of this oversized pergola, which is the Muse Garden stage. And if you've never been in the middle of the Santa Monica Mountains, they're really, really beautiful from a nature point of view. We have hawks and all sorts of incredible wildlife and birds. And so it became this sort of kind of lore. You would come to a Mairéad show and watch the moonrise behind the mountain while Venus is behind the stage, and the frogs are chirping or the birds are singing, and you're drinking your wine and having your cheese, and it was like nature and music all fused together to create this just very, very special experience. Which, yeah, good job, Liam.
And it seemed to be more than just music, but also community building. Was that intentional?
I mean, I think with my music, I'm always trying to build community because my songs are songs of the soul, and so but also was because I was living with loads of moms in my neighborhood. And I'm like, hey, you want to have a good night out? And then the word got around, and people were like, oh, have you been to the Muse Garden? And so it sort of organically began, and then has its own life. But yeah, it's a lot to do. It's like throwing a wedding every year. So we can't do them that often.
Well, what have you learned about leadership through creating these kinds of spaces where people feel connected and seen?
I think what I've realized is that, it's ironic that I'm a business grad, but I'm a very artist mind. And I didn't give myself credit for a long time that, I even was a leader. But now I look back and I see, oh, I have this amazing group of musicians and also studio people that have been working with me for 20 plus years. And then people joining the group all the time in terms of, supporting the shows or helping me promote things here or there. And it was just recently that I realized that I don't lead in this very formal, like sit down and with, pen and paper and write out, okay, I need to do this, that, and the other. But I think because I'm so soul driven, I connect to people's their soul and their motivation for for me being engaged in music and creating a collective. And if we align, like literally it's like we're a family, So I think, and maybe that's to go back to, like, I'm one of six kids, and my grandmother lived with us. So there was always eight or nine people in my house just sleeping. And then there was always probably 14 or 15 people regularly during the week, friends and big dinners over Christmas and holidays. And because I'm second eldest, my mom really relied on my older sister and I to really help a lot, and even grocery shopping. Like, I realized I knew how to do all these things because I'd been part of a band in some shape or fashion my whole life, and sort of at the upper end of the band, like being the band leader. But it's been a very organic experience for me. And I'm really lucky that I'm married to a man who is very good at sort of the black and white approach, And well, I would say that we're a great team. So in leadership, I think finding team players is really, really powerful, because truly in synergy, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So it's trying to find that group of people that puts you in your most powerful position, but that you being in your most powerful position is also elevating their powerful position.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of family, family is clearly important to you. And now your sons perform with you. And in fact, Gabriel is featured on your new recordings. What has that experience meant to you?
Mind, soul, heart blowing, beyond anything I could have dreamed. Um, and just like as for however long it's going to happen, I am like soaking up every moment. And it happened again super organically. Tristan played with me when he was in middle school. God bless American music programs in middle school and high school because he started playing the sax. And so when he was around 9 or 10, who know, he would have been 11 or 12. He came on a couple of gigs with me. But it was more like I was like begging him, and he's like, okay, it was like, it was, didn't feel fully in the flow, but it was lovely. Of course, it was lovely. And then Gabriel started middle school and he started playing the trumpet. And again, his name is Gabriel. I had no intention, and Liam, when we named our son Gabriel, like the whole angel Gabriel blowing the trumpet, not on our mind. It's a thing, completely not on our mind. So he started to develop very quickly with trumpet and just had all this passion. And so then I guess I had started doing a little bit more, playing live. And I guess I said to him, oh, it was when I was doing the Love album and I needed some trumpet. And I said, hey, Gabe, you want to try? And so we recorded here at home, the two of us, and that was sublime experience. And he was into it. See, Tristan was not into it. Gabe was all into it. And I was like, okay, this is good. So then Gabe started recording a little. And so then, of course, if he was recording, he would have to, if we are going to play, hey, Gabe, you want to play? So then Gabe was playing on stage and he was adorable because he was still little blondie, hadn't even hit puberty. And so he was the star of the show. I was like, okay, great. My son is upstaging me, but it's fine. He's not like, he's the eye candy, which is great. And then Tristan got wind of it. And he was like, huh, Gabriel's playing with you? And so he was coming home from college. I was doing my Love album release show. Gabriel was absolutely playing on it. And then I just very gently said to Tristan, hey, you want to play? And he's like, I don't know, maybe. And then the band started to come in, and my band, all the different band members I play with, they are phenomenal and they're just brilliant people. So as soon as the band was in the room, Tristan was like, I think I went in on that action. So when we got up on that stage and I played the first chords and they were playing on the first song, and I looked to my left and I saw my two sons standing there. It was like, I get it. It's why it was the Empress card. As soon as that happened, I went, oh my gosh, this is, I am in the flow of my life. This is a bigger dream than I could ever dream.
So, how has your definition of success changed from the young artist in New York to the woman that you are today?
For me, success is more than your career. It's about the balance of your life. And I feel very, very lucky. We talked a little earlier about the very tough decade of loss, but now because of that, the fact that I have a great marriage, a man that I love, and he loves me. We don't always like each other, but that's totally normal. Yeah, and kids though who are doing well. Um, I have a beautiful home. I am at peace and with all my family. I've got my, brothers and sisters, and I'm playing music. Like that's everything for me. That it doesn't, and I don't take it for granted because God forbid anything can happen. I hope my voice is in really great shape. My chops are good, but nothing is promised. We did lose one of our band members in 2018, one of my mentors um, that I had worked with from Too Cynical to Cry, actually. He was a producer on the first album, then ended up working with me on all my stuff and with my other partner Jim. We were like a threesome, and he died very suddenly in 2018, and that was heartbreaking. It was another one of those moments, and I think it's really why these three albums that I've just released, that was sort of the seeds of losing him, were why these three albums exist now. But I just have such an awareness that nothing is promised. But while things are good, you enjoy every second and soak it up and try not to be stressed. I'm talking to myself. Like I tend to, I've lived on the stress side of things too much in life. And now I'm like, okay, I need to shift that dynamic within myself.
Here, here. Well, we've explored Mairéad's extraordinary musical journey, her personal challenges, and the creative community she's built through music. When we come back, we'll discuss her vision for the future, the legacy she hopes to leave, and finish with our wisdom and whimsy segment. Don't miss a thing. Follow Expressions of Leadership on your favorite podcast app and connect with us on Instagram and YouTube at Expressions of Leadership. Welcome back to Expressions of Leadership. I'm Michele Kawamoto Perry, and today we've been speaking with singer-songwriter Mairéad MacMullen about authenticity, courage, creativity, and leading from the heart. Mairéad, looking ahead, what are you most excited about in this next chapter?
Well, I've just released a three album project that I've been working on for 3+ years called Love is Everything. And I'm about to hit the road, actually, for the first time in a very long time. I've got some shows up in the Pacific Northwest, and then I'm going to Ireland, and then I'm going to go back to New York. And I haven't performed in Ireland or New York in a really long time. And the boys are coming with me and Liam, which is awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's seriously a family affair, and I'm just really excited. So these three albums, the Love album is my first official covers album because I felt I had finally qualified myself enough as a songwriter to then be able to interpret artists that I truly love, and inspire me, take their songs. And so I'm really proud of that record. And then is my newest originals. And the Everything album is from the 10 years of the Muse Gardens. It's a live album. So if you want to have your Muse Garden experience, you need to listen to the Everything album and you hear the frogs and birds and everything. And so it's really taking the energy of those three records and seeing where they flow. Um, I'm going to obviously put lots of effort into getting the music out there and going to places where people want to hear me sing, but I want to do it in a very like slow flow manner and allow the universe to take me on the boat ride and not be kind of like micromanaging. So that's what I'm hoping for, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that Love is Everything is about to inspire people across the world.
Well, when all is said and done, what legacy do you ultimately hope to leave behind?
A life well lived, and a life well lived, I think, leaves ripples of positivity and support for other people's lives. And the music that I've created is relatively timeless. If hopefully, I'm putting as much as I can up on the internet into the world, and so that it's there as a moment of joy or salve for the soul, if somebody needs it in the moment and is somehow comes across it.
For listeners who want to learn more about you, your performances, and the Love is Everything project, where can they find you?
Well, you can go to maireadmusic.com, but it is an Irish name. So it's Mairead music.com. tiktok.com because I'm old school. I think probably had one of the first websites. And so, I mean, I am on going to be on TikTok. I'm about to launch some stuff and Instagram and all that. But if you go to my website, that sends you to all those places. And that sort of will give you a good picture of all my different releases over the years and what I'm up to as well.
Well, now it's time for our wisdom and whimsy segment of the show, where I get to ask the guest one advice question and one fun question. Starting with the advice question, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone who feels called to something bigger, but is afraid to take that leap?
You gotta jump, baby. You gotta go. What's the worst case scenario? You land back where you were. You gotta go see. Give it a go.
And now for the fun question. If your career had a theme park ride named after it, what kind of ride would it be and what would it be called?
I think it would be one of those, kind of go-kart rides where you're driving all over the place and it's a big, but it would be super extra long with weird stop-offs like, dance party, hospital, venue, and it would be called the Long and Winding Road. It's also a great Beatles song too, actually.
Well, Mairéad, thank you so much for sharing your remarkable story and reminding us that leadership often begins with the courage to tell the truth, especially your own.
Thank you so much, Michelle. This has been a delight. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us for this episode of Expressions of Leadership. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might benefit from hearing it. You can also connect with us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Until next time, remember that leadership isn't always about taking center stage. Sometimes it's about finding the courage to become fully yourself. If you haven't done so already, make sure to click on that follow button so you don't miss out on future episodes. Have a guest you'd like us to interview? Questions, ideas, or just want to say hello? You can reach us at letstalk@expressionsofleadership.com or connect with us on Instagram or YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, thanks to our amazing team behind the scenes for making this podcast possible, including our sound engineer, Graham Palmer, and my chief encourager and advisor, Jeremiah Higgins.